Okay, we're going to begin. Thank you for joining us, everyone. It's a great turnout. So welcome to the latest edition of Titan Talk. Today we're joined by Scale Computing, who are a global leader in edge computing, hyperconverged infrastructure and virtualization. I am joined by Gary Lynch, who is the Regional Sales Manager, and Ian Smith, who is the Technical and Alliances Director of Scale. So a agenda for today, we're going to talk about Titan and who we are. We've got a lot of partners who will be familiar with that, but we've also got some new resellers on today, which is great. So we'll introduce our business and then I will hand over to Gary at Scale Computing to talk about their renowned HC3 platform. We're going to talk about their edge computing solution and the VDI. Going to follow that up with a live demo from Ian Smith, and then we'll talk about follow-up actions towards the end. So Titan are a specialist in data storage, data management, and cybersecurity managed and professional services. We're a dynamic and technical distributor, taking a consultative approach to the channel, and we work regularly with the end user in conjunction with our resellers, system integrators, and managed service providers to find the best solution. We have an integration, configuration, and warehousing facility in Rainham, Essex, and also recently opened one in Klundert in the Netherlands. So in addition to intellectual property and your employees, data is the most important asset of any organization. Organizations must continuously change to grow and stay ahead of that competition. If you stand still, you'll fall behind, and this applies so much to IT. Companies must continue to innovate and adapt, and this slide really typifies what we believe this is the channel's approach to data storage. Less than 5% data is analysed today, which is a major concern, and this typical or traditional topography, the multi-layered vendor strategy is causing major headaches when it comes to companies' growth and also the unmanageable data silos, especially now we have a rather prominent skills gap. So the hyper-converged industry today stands at $7.8 billion, and in the next 4 years that will stand at $27 billion. So things are starting to move and technology is starting to innovate, and Titan have partnered with Scale Computing. Scale are ranked #1 by CRN in edge computing and #1 in hyperconverged infrastructure by the Gartner peer review. They saw a 45% growth last year during very challenging conditions, and my personal opinion is they're a fantastic company to work with. So without further delay, I would like to introduce you to Gary Lynch, the Regional Sales Manager for the UK and Ireland.
Thanks for that, Steve, and good morning to everyone. My name's Gary Lynch. As Steve mentioned, I'm the Regional Sales Manager for Scale Computing. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview of the Scale Computing proposition and to actually show you where you can gain extra traction with your customers and also earn some extra revenue by using probably one of the best kept secrets in the IT marketplace today, really. There we go. So Scale Computing was formed back in 2008, so it's not a new company to the marketplace. We've got headquarters in Indianapolis, and we've got our EMEA headquarters based in the Netherlands. As you can see from the slide, we focus mainly on the SME and the SMB infrastructure marketplace, but also from the distributed enterprise from an edge point of view, which is a market that is growing rapidly at the moment. Sorry about that. we've got over 600 case studies that you'll be able to use to help you and to review some of the customers that are actually using Scale. And we have a number of technology partners, including Lenovo, NEC, Google Cloud Platform, and APC. We also partner with some software vendors like Acronis for backup and disaster recovery, and also Parallels and LeoStream from a point of VDI, which again, in the current climate, we're seeing a huge rise in the uptake of VDI technology, and organisations actually implementing this with home working. We also have quite a large partnership in place with Intel, which I'll talk about a bit more later on in the slide deck. So as you can say, you may not have heard of Scale Computing, but we're working with some of the largest organisations around the globe, and more specifically in the UK. We have some larger customers such as Sainsbury's Argos, Genting Casinos. We're also very heavily involved within the shipping marketplace. So with companies like Northern Marine, and very topical, one of our larger customers is the Liverpool School of Tropical Medicine, which obviously with the pandemic that's going on at the moment, they've been heavily involved in working with the government to try and come up with vaccines and help people and get life back to normal, basically. As I say, we are really doing well in the UK, but we're looking for more partners to actually come on board and help us move that forward even further. So if you are dealing with any SME customers, whether they're in the local government, education space, retail, manufacturing, then we really want to talk to you, because there are opportunities where you can actually start using Scale Computing. So as a company that is providing hyperconverged solutions, this is our reference on what we see as being hyperconverged. So it's a combination of servers and storage with a virtualization layer, integrating that into a single solution architect. And hence you come up with a solution that is scalable, simple to use, and is highly available. HC3 is the actual implementation that we put on these appliances. So if we look at what the common architecture typically is within an organization, it is normally either a 3-tier model, as you see here, which is some kind of SAN, servers, and a virtualization layer. People moving forward into hyperconverged are using this as a way of consolidating their infrastructure and trying to simplify it. So if we look at the slide that's in front of us at the moment, the infrastructure on the right hand side is the Scale Computing model, and on the left hand side is the model that a lot of our hyperconverged competitors actually use, which is using a virtual storage appliance model, which basically means that you're still going to have some form of vulnerability, but also what that also means is that you're using quite a lot of resources to actually manage this environment, certainly from a storage point of view. The model on the right is makes it very easy to put our file system into a very small workspace, which then enables you to use more of those services to benefit you to run your applications. So these are the 3 pillars that we actually use to talk to customers around, which is using our model of hyperconvergence, which is server, storage, and virtualization. And those pillars are built on simplicity, availability, scalability, and affordability. The whole ethos of Scale Computing's way we work forward is to make any solution that we provide to customers as simple to implement and simple to manage as possible. Because what we want to make sure is that end users who are using our solutions are not spending time managing the infrastructure all day long. We want to be able to give them their time back to be able to look after what's important for their business, which is basically the applications that they're running to run their business. So because of the simplicity, we're able to pre-configure these solutions before they're sent out. So they come ready installed with the software built into it, which makes deployment very simple and very easy. These solutions can be deployed in less than an hour, probably 30 minutes. And from an availability point of view, it's a highly available solution, ranging from single nodes up to multiple appliances within a cluster, giving you high availability. There's also self-healing capability built into the solutions. So again, it's making it very easy to manage in a high available environment. So from a scalability point of view, you can start very small, i.e. a single node, and replicate that off to another computer center, wherever that is, or data center. Or you can actually start scaling up as and when you need the requirements or the services that you need to actually run your business. And because that we're running exactly the same software on all of the models that we provide, you're able to mix and match. So you're not actually tied into any one model once you buy your first node from us or your first cluster. And from a control point of view, we have a single pane of glass management, which makes it very easy to monitor and to manage this solution moving forward. Automatic upgrade management built into it, so you don't need to shut down the solutions when you're adding capability, whether that be storage, compute, or networking. And the last point that I'll make on this slide, which is around affordability, because we're able to offer the complete stack with all the software included, there are no additional costs for you to, from a licensing point of view, to worry about. So again, from an aspect of actually managing your budgets for your customers, they know exactly what they're going to get and what it's going to cost, and they can plan for the future by using this model going forward, which is basically keeping the price low and lowering their cost from an IT budget point of view. So if we look at this model that's just building up at the moment, you can see the different areas where Scale can actually be used. So you can use it in your central data center, and the cluster sizes go from very small 250 gig of storage right up to a couple of petabytes of storage in a single cluster. You can use it as a DR node or a DR cluster for backup and DR. You can use the edge, which is where we're being very successful at the moment, from remote offices or where you've got various locations dotted around the world, all being managed from a central web-based management station, i.e. a single pane of glass. So again, what this adds up to is a return on your investment very quickly, and it's gaining value back to the business because you're not spending time actually managing the infrastructure. Edge computing is a very big area and it's growing massively, both in the UK and around the world, and we're seeing a massive growth in this. So again, if you need to talk to either ourselves or to Titan Data Solutions around Edge, then we're more than happy to go into a bit more detail with you on one-to-one sessions, and also talking to your customers moving forward. So this is the model range from Scale Computing. So as you can see, we start off on the left-hand side with the HE150, which is a Intel, based on the Intel NUC hardware. So very small form factor servers built in, ideal for edge computing or for offices or locations where space is at a premium, and also where there's a lack of what you would class as classical data center space. So these items can be located within an office environment where they don't need special cooling. And you can go from as small as I said, 250 gigabytes of storage built into that. Moving up, we have the HE500 range, which is our low to mid-end range. And then again, moving up to the HE1200 range. Right at the top end, we have the HC5000 range, which is really for your larger infrastructure rollout or data center environments. All of these models can actually be mixed and matched within an environment. So again, if you start off either at the high end with the HC5000, you can add in smaller clusters or smaller nodes into that will enable you to add in an extra department within an environment that you're actually looking at. And obviously we can't talk about IT infrastructure without mentioning the cloud. We also have a cloud offering, which is Cloud Unity, which is basically DR as a service within the cloud. So again, we're able to offer the full breadth of services right from the low end, moving right up to the data center and working with enterprises in the edge on a single platform. What this means for the customers is ease of use, ease of management, control of their budgets moving forward. And again, for you as partners, this will mean extra revenue for you moving forward. We're very, as I say, as an organization, we're very much end user led, and our support organization gets great write-ups within Gartner around how we help our customers. So we're not your classical support organization from that aspect. Our support guys actually work with our customers, both from supporting them when they're having issues, but also helping and advising them as and when they are actually growing their businesses and are looking for advice and help on how to actually implement newer applications or newer areas to their business. So we're there to help you as partners. We see it as a great way of you earning extra revenue moving forward. And with that, I would like to hand over to Ian Smith to give you a quick demo just to show how easy it is to actually implement and actually manage a scale environment.
Thanks, Gary. Yeah. Anyway, right, I'll get into the crux of the product and the demo. We're talking about simplicity. You can see that I've got my web browser opened. I've got a management view here of my local cluster. You'll notice that I've logged into the first IP address of the cluster. And all I simply need is a web browser to manage my entire environment. And going back to the different family members of the HC3 series, the same interface is present throughout. So it's the same management interface, whether I'm managing a very small HE150 cluster or a very large capacity 5000 series cluster. The management interface is the same. The only thing that would be slightly different is that in the head-up display here, you can see at the very top, you would see additional nodes, for example. Obviously, this is a 3-node cluster, but the actual same look and feel is persistent throughout. We have the gas gauges at the top here as well, which give you cluster-wide information, so you know current usage. And probably most importantly, and unfortunately this is sort of a little bit boring because I don't have any problems on this cluster at the moment, but you can see here that we actually break down the health of the cluster so it's easily understandable. As soon as you log into the interface, you understand the health of the environment. Again, you'd have to wade through lots of lengthy event logs and so on to try and figure out what's going on. As soon as you log into the interface, it will then have actually some pop-ups that will tell you the health of the cluster, as well as giving you a visual indication here as well. And also the gas gauges will also change color based on usage as well. So if you're getting up to sort of 70+% storage utilization, you'll get an alert, for example. Same with the RAM utilization as well. And in fact, I'll trigger alert in a few moments when I create a VM. If we then go over 66% in the case of a 3-node cluster, then we'll get an alert saying that actually we've gone beyond the amount of usable RAM while still enabling high availability. So the key point is that it's very simple to understand the health of your environment and if anything's wrong or not. And before you even get to this point, the setup is very simple. It takes around about 5 or 10 minutes to configure a cluster, 2 IP addresses per node, and just talked about there. The fact that we have a management IP address on each node. We have a backplane IP address as well, which is used for internode communication. Have a cup of tea, which is a unit of measurement for me for most things in life. And by the time I've had half a cup of tea, then you're ready to then start creating VMs pretty much. You'll be able to log into this interface. There's some one-time configuration. Tell the cluster a little bit about the environment it lives in, for example. So you can see this is registered to me. I've got this configured with my AD environment as well. You most typically configure the email alerts as well. So not only do you get an alert when you log in, but also you get an email alert if there's a change in the health of the cluster. And then you're pretty much ready to go. The next thing you probably want to do is to upload some ISOs. So in good Blue Peter fashion, that you can see that I've got some ISOs already uploaded here. So I've got so pretty usual ISOs. We've got Windows, Linux workloads here, or ISOs, should I say, uploaded. And at that point, I can start to create VMs. But before I do come out of the control center, I'll just go through a few other key points. We talked about remote support and support being a key part of the platform. It's 24/7 access to our support team, and there's only one level of support. And we really want you to think of our support team as an extension of your IT team as well. So, we normally think of support as being the last resort. And in fact, we want you to think of our support team as an extension of your in-house capability as well. And it's very easy for us to provide support. Get in touch with our support team, as mentioned, available 24/7. And Gary mentioned the fact that the cluster has self-healing capabilities, and probably one of the most important aspects of that is that what happens if it comes across an issue that it's not seen before, and if it does come across an issue it's not seen before, it will simply say support intervention required. Again, you don't have to then sort of try and figure out what's going on. Simply get in touch with the support team. They'll give you a code, pop that code into the node here or a particular option, hit open connection. And that will then allow our support team to get on and then do what they need to do at the back end. So it means that you don't have to mess around with remote meeting sessions, punch holes in firewalls and things like that. So it means that we can provide immediate support to you. So again, making that support experience much simpler. Same for update management as well. Unfortunately, I don't have an update in the view here, but if I did, then as you'd expect, I'd have a brief readme here describing what the update consists of. Most importantly, there'd be an apply update button, top right-hand corner here. Hit the apply update, and that would be a single click upgrade, completely non-disruptive. You don't have to evacuate or migrate VMs from a node. You don't have to think about putting a node into maintenance mode as well, which I'm sure you're familiar with other platforms. We take care of that entire process. So it's a single click upgrade, completely non-disruptive in the case of a highly available cluster. Okay, and then I think the last thing I'll just touch upon here is the sort of built-in data protection and replication features. And you can see I've actually got a remote cluster set up here as a replication partner. And although we use the sort of the notion of a remote cluster, really what we're talking about is any scale appliance. So not only do we support clusters as well, and by that we mean a 3-node cluster or beyond, but we also support what we call SNS systems or single node systems, which are great for either edge deployments or for DR, for example. So you have still the same features from a replication point of view if you replicate into a single node as you do a cluster. And then lastly, before I move into creating a VM, you can see that we've got some data protection schedules here as well. And you can see here that we've got a few different schedules already defined. Gary's got one here as well. And I'll probably pick on our colleague in South Africa here, Jaco. See, he's got a rule here, set up a schedule. I can add in additional reoccurrence rules as you would do in your savings in backup software, for example, define a schedule. So you can define how often, what the retention policy is, and also set a different retention policy for remote location as well. And this is building upon our storage stack called Scribe. So Gary talked about that in one of the earlier slides, where we have a very efficient stack. The actual storage stack, which is called Scribe, that sits on top of the operating system in user space on each node. That gives us an advantage. We don't need the overhead of a virtual storage appliance, for example. Still have all the benefits of shared storage though. So we talk about high availability. So we stripe and mirror the data across drives and nodes in a cluster. So that means we can lose drives or even multiple drives in a cluster. In the case of a node failing, it's N+1 redundancy. So for example, if node 1 went offline, then all that would happen is that the nodes running, or should say the VMs running on node 1 would be automatically restarted on the other nodes in the cluster. Again, you as the administrator don't have to do anything. We manage that entire process. And probably more importantly, what happens when you actually then resolve the issue and the node's back online, then we actually then manage the reintroduction of the node back into the cluster or the addition of a new drive, then manage all of the checks that go on behind the scenes. Again, we don't expect you to go through a long sort of process wading through event logs and knowledge base articles to make sure that it's all healthy. The cluster itself will manage that entire process. So let me just walk through and create a VM. And you can see I normally pick on Gary quite a lot for demos, so I'm not going to break with that tradition. So I'm going to create Gary a domain controller. Add in a few tags as well. Tags are really useful when you're managing large numbers of VMs. In this instance, I'm going to stick with Windows and the performance drivers. I'm going to stay with the same compute resource, but I'm going to add in a few virtual disks here, try and make it look a little bit more realistic. And then select the ISO from the list that we saw a few moments ago. And in this instance, I'll stick with the server 2019. So you can see it only takes a few seconds to configure a server. I'm now just going to change the filter view there, just so I'm focused on Gary's VM. Just zoom in a little bit. I'm then going to apply that data protection schedule. So I'm going to select the Jaco data protection schedule, and then I'm going to select replication as well. So you can see within a few moments, we've created a VM, we've protected it locally based on that schedule, and we've also enabled replication and by default DR as well. And that means that every time a scheduled snapshot is taken, or even a manual snapshot is taken, not only will that snapshot be available locally, but it will also be replicated across to the target cluster or single node appliance as well. And recovering from a snapshot is very simple. And again, don't want you to think of our snapshots as the same as traditional file-based snapshots, where you're looking at a traditional VMware or Hyper-V environment. We have lots of management overhead associated with snapshots. We actually developed our storage stack to use snapshots as a form of data protection. And so we can support a very large number of snapshots. And by virtue of the fact you can schedule those, that means it's self-evident. So you don't have the normal performance issues associated with snapshots, but also the management of snapshots as well. We've all been there where we forgot snapshots and we've run out of space, for example. You can delete snapshots out of sequence without any sort of issues there. And if we go to the snapshot view, then you can see here that I've got a few options here. I can either recover the entire system, either clone that particular snapshot, and obviously if this was in a real production environment, I'd have a history there. Or you can see I've got the option as I've expanded that snapshot to actually recover a virtual disk. So I can recover an individual virtual disk live, either to the same system or to another system. So that gives me file-like level recovery without the need to go outside of our platform. So this is all built in and integral to the scale environment. And you can see there now I've got Gary's clone ready there to be accessed. From a cloning point of view as well, it's thin cloning technologies. We only copy the metadata. We don't duplicate data when we actually clone a system. And it's also the same with snapshots as well, that we've obviously based that on deltas. Same with replication as well. Also built into the storage stack as well. Not only do we have high availability, as I mentioned, we stripe and mirror the data. We also have node level dedupe as well. And also when we're replicating VMs between clusters, we also encrypt and compress that data as well between clusters. Okay, and I'm just going to pop down to my template group, and just to prove the point, because obviously I've just cloned a VM there that had very little data associated with it. So you're going to say, so what? You know, that should only take a few moments. I'm just going to actually take a Sysprect image that I've already built earlier there, and I'm just going to clone that and then pop that into the Gary group. So let me just finish that there, and put that into the DC group, and then clone that there. So now that's going to clone that system just under 20 gigs worth of data, so it's a little bit more realistic. And you can see there that, you know, even quicker than I can go back to the view there, you can see that Gary's VM is there ready to go. So it's already Sysprect, I can simply spin that up. And if I take a look at the remote cluster here, and I've got a few different ways I can do that. I can either go back to the remote cluster view and select that cluster, and it will open up the management view, or I can even do that from the VM as well. So you can see here that I've got a hyperlink there, and that will then open up automatically the remote target. And so this is the DR cluster I've got running here. You can also see I've got various other workloads as well. And in fact, if I look at this VM here, you can see I've got more of a snapshot history. So you can get the idea. I can recover back to a particular point in time. And also you can see that we've got Gary's VM already replicating across here. Okay, so I think that's sort of covered most things I wanted to touch upon this morning. And you've almost had a training course, in fact. There are not lengthy training courses required with Scale. It's designed to be very simple. You know, so if you want to think of this sort of your on-prem cloud platform, again, mentioned, it's very simple to actually set up the cluster. Also going forward as well, to expand the cluster, it's very simple and straightforward, non-disruptive. Additional nodes can be added, or should I say nodes can be added non-disruptively. So again, no downtime, no reconfiguration. And there we go, actually we've got some warning messages now. So going back to what I mentioned at the very start, see now it's actually warning me that insufficient free memory is available to start all VMs. I was just saying I might want to then consider what, you know, reducing the amount of RAM allocated. So you can see that it's always, you know, watching the system for any issues that may occur. Yeah, so going back to adding and expanding the cluster, add additional nodes for additional resource. You don't have to add the same node type though, so you can mix and match nodes. You can have storage only nodes as well, which is very useful when taking into consideration licensing as well for, you know, for whether it's Windows or for database applications as well. Or you can, you know, add in additional nodes with less storage if you just want additional compute, for example. So you have a lot of flexibility when expanding your environment as well. Okay, so well, thank you for your time this morning. I don't know if there's any questions come in, or if you would like to take the baton back, Steve.
Yes, thank you very much for that, Ian. That was fantastic.
No problem at all. Thank you.
Okay, so the next step really is for those who are not currently Scale partners. We've got a few links, and your account managers at Titan will be contacting you. If you don't have an account manager, I personally will reach out to you later on. Becoming a Scale partner not just enables you to become certified as in sales training, but also technical training. It's an incredible resource center that they have on their portal. But the main thing for me, I find, and the main benefit of being a Scale partner that we hear is the pre-sales support that you get, and also the live optics that we tend to run on a lot of our end user infrastructures. So this is a report which is sent directly back to Scale, who analyze where the pain points are within your customer's environment, and not only helps us find the right solution, but we feel it adds tremendous value to partners, end users, and it certainly increases our close rates on a lot of opportunities as well. So this is something that that is offered to Scale partners, and if you have any opportunities that you're working on at the moment regarding IT infrastructure, we'd urge you to get in touch so we could run a live optics infrastructure diagnosis and ultimately reach out with you to your customer.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, Steve, I mean, the sizing is really important. We want to make sure that, you know, everybody's happy along the way, and we're not just trying to sell a bit of tin. We're really interested in the workloads. Gary will tell you that if we just get a hardware spec turn up across our desk to try and compare against, then you know, Gary can probably already hear my sort of groans in the background there, because you know, that doesn't necessarily help. And I know sometimes you don't have all the information to hand to go on, and you need to start at the beginning. But we're most interested in the workloads themselves, the applications, their requirements. The Live Optics is great at teasing out, you know, issues with the current infrastructure, you know, seeing if there's any inherent problems, and also that then helps us then, you know, plan ahead and you know, plan for success, for want of a better phrase. So yeah, it's absolutely critical from my point of view.
That's great. Thanks, Ian. And finally, everyone, all attendees will shortly be sent a Starbucks coffee voucher, which will receive in your inbox. We will be doing a live prize draw for the Fitbit Versa 3, which Scale have kindly donated to a lucky attendee from today. We will be announcing the winner later on, and we'll be in touch. And we'd also like to send all attendees a 5 tips to tidy your customers' infrastructure white paper, which is very valuable. That's it from us. If anyone just check out the Q&As. So here's a question from Justin, Ian. So by using Live Optics, are Dell made aware of the opportunity?
Well, I suppose technically that, you know, and it's no secret that Live Optics is a Dell. In fact, it's the best product that Dell don't sell, actually. And I know that it's used to sort of draw people in, but again, you know, we're still Dell partners, and that's why we have access to it. And you know, there is that notional issue there, although I have to say, in reality, we don't see that as a particular problem. If we have a partner though that doesn't want to use Live Optics, then obviously we can then help through other discovery methods. You know, there are other tools out there that are, you know, the partner base might have access to. Microsoft do have the MAP tool, the Microsoft Assessment and Planning Toolkit, that is probably more agnostic, if you can use that phrase, although it doesn't quite provide the same level of detail that Live Optics does. So there are other tools to be used if that's you know, a concern by using Live Optics. But from our point of view, you know, we as a company do use Live Optics, as well as I was going to say Lanamark, but it's not called Lanamark now, is it? It's I think is it One IQ now, I believe it's called. So we do also from time to time use those reports as well, if partners have access to that. So again, we'll be led by the partner, but as a company, we're comfortable with using Live Optics.
Great. And just one further question is, so it was mentioned that Scale work well on the edge. In what verticals should resellers be looking at?
Well, I mean, all and above, really. I mean, it's more about the challenge. One of the earlier slides that Gary showed there, so those sort of 4 key tenets or pillars of the platform, you know, around you know, simplicity, availability, scalability, and affordability. And I know there's sort of almost catchphrases there, but it's more about the requirements of the IT team and the demands of the business. You know, we're in many different verticals, whether that be retail, finance, shipping, for example. You know, we've got a lot of customers now in the shipping industry. You know, we also talk about Ahold Delhaize quite a lot as well, which is a very large retailer where we're deploying, you know, many sites there. And we're not talking about tens of sites; we're talking about hundreds of sites. You know, in fact, over into the thousands. So we have many different sizes of customers as well as many different verticals. It's more about the fact that the IT team, you know, under pressure, which most IT teams are, and have a requirement to have an infrastructure that doesn't require a lot of you know, management. and we didn't really touch upon it as well, but for larger deployments, we have an Edge portal, which is a code name Nucleus. I don't know if that's the name it'll be officially launched with, but if you look at any of our demos then online as well, you'll see that we talk about that a lot, and that's then used to help manage large numbers of or clusters or fleets, as we like to call them. So again, it's more about the requirements of the business, so small IT teams, under pressure to deliver, to provide value back to the business, the application layer, rather than babysitting the infrastructure. And if you look at Tech Validate, and there's a few other online resources as well, I think we've got about 600 case studies now online, I believe, something like that, in many, many different verticals. So that's a good resource as well.
Yeah, we find that's a really good resource, especially the Tech Validate. I'll send a link out as well for that as a follow up to all attendees.
Yeah.
Go on, sorry, Ian.
No, I was just going to say the last thing we didn't really cover, actually, I'm going back to the slightly technical side of things, is migration of workload. So we didn't really cover actually we incorporate KVM. So we're not a VMware player or a Hyper-V player at all. Our stack is built around, or incorporates, should I say, KVM as the hypervisor. Migration comes up as a question. I would say that 95% of our customers migrate some form of workload. There's many different ways that you can migrate onto Scale. You can either use your backup environment, your backup software to do that. We have a manual import option where within the interface you can import from an SMB share, or you can use tools like HC3 Move, which people might know better as formerly known as Double Take or Vision Solutions product, which is a great way of migrating workloads with pretty much no downtime.
Good stuff. Just maybe one final one for you, Gary. Got a customer asking if there are any commitments or requirements that need to be hit to become a Scale partner.
No, so again, we find that a lot of the larger organizations or vendors want you to be selling X number of units per year. As Ian's touched on, we're very much end user focused. So if you've got any end user opportunities, there are no criteria around how many you need to sell throughout the year. I mean, we'd obviously love for you to sell hundreds and thousands of our solutions moving forward, but we don't tie any partner into numbers of moving forward with that. But what we do find is that once partners start actually using Scale and working with us along with Titan, that your business will start growing quite rapidly anyway. In that, as I say, it's probably one of the best kept secrets in the IT industry at the moment. So once customers start seeing the simplicity and the flexibility of the solutions that we're able to provide customers, it's repeat business for you, which obviously then makes you as partners very successful, and it's a win-win situation for everybody.
Good stuff. I certainly agree with it being the best kept secret. Just one late question is coming. Is there a deal registration bid process for larger opportunities? There absolutely is. You do need to be a Scale partner in order to raise a deal reg, so we would encourage you to do that. Part of the team here at Titan will not just register that deal registration on your behalf, we'll liaise with Gary and Ian at Scale to ensure swift responses, and the first steps really would be all about that sizing. So as Ian's alluded to, it's more about the application, and we'll do all we can to qualify that opportunity with you. But yes, ultimately deal registration locks you in to that opportunity, but you need
and also, Steve, it protects your margin as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've been asked as well, is there a threshold for the deal registration?
So the initial threshold is 3 months. However, we realise that some projects take a lot longer to close, especially if it's a larger opportunity that you're working on. So again, we try to work as closely as possible with the partners. We're a channel only company, so we don't sell directly ourselves. So as long as we're working with you, then we'll protect and extend that deal registration as and when required.
Fantastic. I believe that is it. So finish on a positive and say that we'll be sending around the vouchers, and congratulations to the mystery winner. We'll reach out to you and look to share that on LinkedIn. This webinar has been recorded, so you'll see that on our YouTube channel and on the Titan LinkedIn page. And just one more time, I'd like to thank Gary and Ian from Scale Computing for joining us today. I thought that was fantastic.
Thank you.
Likewise, thank you. Thanks, everybody.